Greetings. Today is the Timeshare Traveler. Today is episode 199. So 99, almost 200. One way, that'd be much easier with the fingers. Anyway, today is don't buy a timeshare if, for number one, you don't like to plan vacations. Owning a timeshare requires you to plan vacations. The second point is you don't want to buy a timeshare with credit. Next one is you hate sales presentations. I wouldn't buy a timeshare if you hate that. It kind of comes with the territory. And if you don't want to learn a bunch of rules on how to take advantage of things, you just want to have things simple, like a simple vacation, then maybe a timeshare isn't for you. That's kind of I'd rather tell you this up front, so hopefully you'll enjoy this video. Before I go into the details, though, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my channel. So I'll be back in around 28 seconds. Hang in there. Hi, this is Cliff, and I'm the Timeshare Traveler. Welcome to my channel. The purpose of my channel is to educate those who love traveling in timeshares. I've been an owner for 15 plus years at timeshare ownership. I have elite ownership with Marriott, Hilton, and Worldmark. I have published over 100 timeshare video reviews, and I've published over 95 timeshare tips. I can be found on Facebook at Timeshare Trav, at Twitter, Timeshare Trav, and on the web at www.timesharetraveler.com. I'm back. So, the number one thing that I hear is you don't like to plan your vacations. Well, if that's you, maybe timeshares aren't the thing for you. Here's the bottom line. The most desired locations are booked full, typically well in advance. Not 100% true. Nothing is ever 100% true. But in general, that's the way it is. So if you don't have at least one person in your group that's a planner, having a timeshare may be a really frustrating experience. In fact, it's probably the number one complaint about timeshares I get. I don't get what I want. And that's kind of where you get the upset perspective of what was promised in the sales meeting versus the reality on the ground. And that's actually driven from the users or owners. If you're not a planner, it's very difficult to get what you want. The other thing I would tell you is the most experienced timeshare travelers know how to plan, or they know how to use the rules, which is one of my other points about the complexities of the rules, to book last minute. Again, last minute is always a trade-off, particularly when going after the most sought-after locations. There are some ways around it, but they're really, usually it's a partial vacation, not the full one that you want, but if you plan ahead, you can get. So there you go. That's kind of the first one I wanted to talk about. The next one I wanted to talk about was you can only buy a timeshare on credit. So here's my general rule. I started doing this and I kept track of all the expenses I did and compared it to as if I had booked the same thing just using a rental. And what I found was typically, and again, this is typical, is not a guarantee and it may not work exactly for you, that the payback is typically 7 years buying a timeshares, particularly from the developer. You can buy them resale and that number drops, but it's still, I'll use a 7-year. So I took a look at calculator to figure out if you spent $30,000, which is about the price it is to get a 1 week in a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, depending on the company, but general number. And if you put 10% down, typically you have a 15% interest rate when you borrow from the developers, and it can actually be higher, but I used 15% just as a number. And usually it's a 10-year period. So what I did when I calculated that, it turns out you spend $25,273 over 10 years using standard amortization. Add that to the top of $30,000 and you are actually now spending $55,273 over 10 years to earn that. Now, but what that does is because of the interest you paid, instead of being 7 years, I kind of rounded it to 13 years is how long it takes to pay back your timeshare. And to me, I look at this, if you're going to do it, you want to make sure that you're ultimately saving money, unless it doesn't matter so much, you just want to be at those locations and it doesn't matter, it's not so much a numbers game. But again, if it was, why not just rent them? That would be my other thought to do that. Anyway, hope that's helpful. Let me talk on number 3. The next one is you hate sales presentations. And I wish I could say, I mean, you can say no, and I have talked to people who got good at saying no and no longer get asked because I haven't upgraded in so many years. But in general, owning a timeshare means you're kind of going to go into sales presentations. I wish, If you own a timeshare, you will be asked to attend sales presentations, and you can say no. But in general, you're going to be, some people I've seen comments where people talk about how they felt hounded and it took away from their vacation and all kinds of stuff. So I like to just say, hey, if you're in the timeshares, you're probably going to have presentations. You just make it be a reality. But here's the way to deal with it. You must know what's important to you, because then saying no is, this is what's important to me. I don't see that here. So no. That way, at least you get through it, and an hour, and you'll get some gift. But maybe they'll give you what you need. So that way, it's a win-win for both, and don't make it a feeling like it's a win-lose. Don't buy unless you see the value for yourself. That's another way of saying it. And again, the other thing I would say, a good sales presentation is one where you learn something new. Maybe even when you don't get what you need, but at least you learn something new that maybe you can use a timeshare better. And I really appreciate sales reps who go out of their way to show you something new. Anyway, don't buy a timeshare if you're going to hate sales presentation. It comes kind of with the territory. And my last, don't buy a timeshare if you don't want to learn a bunch of rules. Bottom line is, to take advantage of the timeshares, there's just a lot of rules and workarounds and things that I actually find makes my vacationing better, and I can do more of it for less money. The more you learn, the more money you can save with specials, marketing programs, exchanges, bonuses, and so forth, hotel points, and all those kind of things. So there's a bunch of rules, and each one's complicated, but there's also value in learning the complexity. So if you're kind of that person that loves to be a sleuth, timeshares are for you. If you don't like it, and again, I put this one last because if you can make it work on the others, this isn't as necessary. So this is kind of the icing on the cake kind of thing, which is why I put it at the bottom. Because it takes time and energy to learn the rules. And some people kind of have the view, which is the last point, which is you work hard to earn a vacation, and you don't want to work to learn how to vacation. Now, I would argue that the more you work, the more you gain better vacations. But some people just say, no, I'm off work. I don't want to work to learn about vacation. I just want to pay for a vacation and go on it. So depending on where you sit on that, maybe timeshares aren't right for you. So anyway, I wanted to give you those top 4 reasons that I would say think twice about buying a timeshare if those 4 go, oh, I don't want to, I definitely don't want to, I don't want to have to, I want to pay on credit. I don't want to plan my vacations. I'm going to pay on credit. I don't want to pay cash. Oh God, I hate sales presentations, and I don't want to learn a bunch of rules. If those all ring true for you, and that's the kind of person you are, probably timeshares aren't for you. You just save yourself a little trouble, and hopefully this video was helpful for you. Love to have a 2 thumbs up like, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.